How's it going, everybody? We are talking about politics today, so if you got any questions about politics, let me know in the chat, and I will do my best to give you a great answer. I know that politics can be very intimidating if you don't know anything about it, so I like to do these lives to give people an opportunity to ask questions without fear of judgment or roasting or ridicule. It is just honest answers to all of your good faith questions. There was definitely a time when I didn't know anything about politics, and I was always really nervous to ask questions about it because I was like, oh, are people going to think I'm dumb for not knowing this stuff? But I do not believe in making people feel bad for trying to learn things. And so I am here to answer your questions about politics. You don't got to worry about any kind of judgments or anything like that. You don't got to worry about, if I ask this question, he's going to think I'm some sort of squishy cuck libtard, or if I ask this question, he's going to think I'm some sort of MAGA fanatic. There's no judgments here. I don't do debates. I am just here to answer your questions about politics. I didn't know about politics when I was growing up, and there were definitely times when I asked my friends questions about politics, and they did that thing where they would like look at each other like, "Oh, did you really just ask that? That's a pretty dumb question that Jared just asked." So you're not going to get any of that here. There's no judgments, there's no roasting, there's no debating. I am just here to answer all of your good faith questions about politics. I know politics can be really intimidating when you first try to start to get into it because there's all these like acronyms and abbreviations and last names that people just sort of like bandy about. Maybe you don't know who McConnell is. Maybe you don't know who Cruz is. Maybe you don't know who Schatz is. And you've always wanted to know like who are these people and who can I ask about this? I feel like there's a lot of people out there who are the Chris Pratt meme of like, I don't know what politics is, and at this point I'm afraid to ask. Well, this is the place, guys. This is the place where you can ask all of your questions about politics, and I will do my best to give you a great answer. Lead Paint Police says, what do you think the implications of shutting down NOAA has? This is part of the Republican and Elon Musk efforts to privatize everything in the government. So instead of offering weather prediction information for everybody, now you're going to have to pay a premium for it. And there are going to be people who do not know that life-threatening weather events are coming down the road towards them because they couldn't afford to buy a Weather Plus account. That's what I think the implications of it is. And that's really, this was talked about in Project 2025. It was a bad idea there, and it's a bad idea now. But thank you for your question, Lead Paint Police. So yeah, we're off to a roaring start here. If you got any questions about politics, let me know in the chat. I am available to answer all of your good faith questions about politics. There is no such thing as a dumb question. I am here for you. Lovely Renee, good to see you again. Do you think that the new legislation to take over Greenland will go anywhere? This is colonization. I don't know that it will go anywhere because both Denmark and the people of Greenland have said that they are not interested in this. And so I think that we are not really going to see a lot of movement in that until, Trump starts talking about military action. Because there's also the possibility that the same mechanisms by which they have been infiltrating the discourse of America using social media manipulation, they're probably going to do the exact same thing to, the people in Denmark and Greenland. So, it's anybody's guess, but I don't think we have to worry about it at the moment. All right. So welcome everybody to the live stream. I answer questions about politics. I am here to answer all of your good faith questions about politics. There's no such thing as a dumb question. There's no roasting. There's no debating. Road Warrior Princess says, do you think he'll try to buy the Greenlanders? That's what he says he's going to try to do, but you can't buy something that they're not selling. James Islander says, how is Trump not in prison? I think that falls squarely on the shoulders of the Supreme Court. Merrick Garland, who was the attorney general under Biden, you could throw a lot of shade at him for moving too slowly. But the fact of the matter is that the Supreme Court ran defense for Trump the past 4 years. And so I put the lion's share of the blame on them. Mr. Least says, why isn't J.D. Vance standing up for his wife and kids? Because he's an opportunist who doesn't give a shit. He is a part of the Republican establishment that doesn't care if Trump literally shits on their face and spits in their kids' eyes. They're like, yeah, Trump is God King of the Republican Party, so we do what he tells us to do. Fogawar Productions, good to see you again. I mean, we could force the Danes out of Greenland under the Monroe Doctrine. I need to read up on that to see, how far down the rabbit hole that is. Bedlam says, why haven't we arrested Elon Musk for breaking the Espionage Act? Because the people who would enforce that don't want to arrest Elon Musk because he is doing what they want him to be doing. The government is fully in control of the Republican Party right now, and so if you are upset at what Elon is doing, then go yell at Republicans because they're the only ones that can do anything about that. Private industry could potentially do things about that, but they've already bent the knee to Trump and Musk, so they know what side of their bread is buttered. They know where their bread is buttered, I think is the expression. What else is that? Obviously, we the people have a say in this with our ability to strike and protest and vote out the politicians who are not enforcing the law and making sure that Elon Musk is not being held accountable for the crimes that he is breaking. Let's see here. Bubblegum3 says maybe the DNC should have put somebody up who could actually challenge Trump. The DNC is normally not in charge of putting somebody up against various candidates. Normally there's a primary. In 2024, there was an exception because Biden decided to drop out because he was too old and he had a really terrible debate performance. So he officially put his support behind his vice president, Kamala Harris, who was technically on the primary ballot with him, so a bunch of people did vote for her. And nobody ran against her. So, it was not that the DNC engineered this. It was that, they were trying to make the best of a bad situation. The Wanderings Tenor 87 says, do you follow state races too? A little bit here and there, but I would definitely not say that I'm an expert. Indy, why didn't the DNC let RFK on the ticket? He didn't do the things that were necessary to get on the ticket. He didn't have the requisite number of, he didn't apply early enough to get on the ballots in all the states that he was trying to run in. Sean55 says, you truly believe the DNC didn't do this? Yes, the DNC did not do this. Sorry, Sean55, but here's a rule of thumb. If you're ever wondering if something is conspiracy or incompetence, it is almost always incompetence. And the DNC was caught completely off foot by Biden's terrible debate performance. They did not think it was going to be that bad. And so when it was that bad, there was a concerted effort by everybody, including a bunch of DNC insiders, to try to get Biden to drop out of the race. It was ultimately Biden's decision, and when he made the choice, there was very little time to put a candidate together. The role naturally went to his vice president. Why are we still litigating this, guys? We are in the middle of a coup. Why are you still litigating the DNC primary that happened a year ago? Like, what the fuck, guys? Marty, do you like Trump? I do not. If not, why? Because he is a corrupt, lying piece of shit who doesn't care about anybody but himself. Sean55 says, what's your excuse for the Doge findings? Ha ha ha. I don't know what you're talking about, the Doge findings. Everything that has come out of the Doge Commission is complete and utter bullshit. They have done nothing but close down programs that help people. There are children who are going to die of AIDS and cancer and hunger because of what Doge is doing. There are American farmers who are going to be able to sell less of their merchandise because of Doge shutting down USAID. There are people at the University of Alabama who are not going to be able to fund their medical research projects because they have slashed the budget of the National Institute of Health. Is that the shit that Doge is doing that you were talking about? JB says, aren't policies backed by Congress not affected by the abolishment of said department? No, not exactly. I believe I believe the answer to your question is that what they are doing is illegal because they're not an elected, they're not an actual commission. They are just a group of dudes who happen to know the president. So they have no legal authority to be doing anything that they're doing. So what they're doing is illegal. These orders that they're doing are illegal. Their ransacking of government computers is illegal. Plugging unsecured personal hard drives into government computers is illegal. The only people that could enforce that right now are Republicans, and they don't really give a shit. Let's see here. Sean55 says, it's a coup, right? It literally is a coup. JB says, in regards to my question, I'm talking about the Department of Education. Yeah, they don't have the right to shut down the Department of Education either. Keith, what about Bill Gates? He was not elected, and look at the destruction that him and Fauci did. That's a conspiracy theory. Bill Gates has done nothing but try to decrease malaria in other countries. Sean55 says, you are so full of it, brother. Well, you don't have to be here. Ellipses says, only 2 people in the executive branch are elected, question mark. Yeah, but everybody else has to go through a nomination process. You know, there's a reason why they have to get senators on board with people like RFK and Kash Patel, and the reason why Matt Gaetz failed is because he couldn't get the Senate approval. Elon Musk was not nominated to any position. He did not go through any sort of Senate nomination or voting. He is an illegal actor in the government right now. Ziggy says, I love your misinformation. It's not information. Carmine, what's going on? Good to see you again. Thank you for sending me that that thought the other day. Let's see here. Aubrey Thompson says they don't understand anything. Who doesn't? CVNT Buster 42 says, what economic system do you think is best? Capitalism, socialism, communism, etc. All of those systems can exist together. There is no system that is exclusively communist, socialist, or capitalist. Like, even now here in America, there are certain things that are communist and socialist. Like, anything that we pay money into that we all get the benefit from is technically a socialist thing. You know, if we pay taxes to our government and then they pave a road so that we can all, you know, not fuck up our suspension when we're driving down the street, then that's socialist. If you have a company that is employee owned, that is communist. And, you know, there are socialist democratic countries like, you know, Norway and Sweden and shit like that. They have capitalism, but they also have a lot more socialism and a lot more communism than we have here in America. Let's see here. TikTok moderator says, we have 3 branches of government. I mean, we used to. You know, here, you know, fingers crossed that they still exist after all this fucking shit. Zach McLean says he was appointed the job. He doesn't need to be elected. Well, when you're appointed, you don't have the same powers as people that are confirmed by the Senate. And what Elon is doing is what normally happens to a person who is confirmed to their seat. And because him and his fucking tech bro underlings, who are all like 20 years old and, you know, shit like that. Yeah, they were not elected. They were just appointed. He is the world's richest man, taking food out of the mouths of starving children so that he can put more money into his pocket. The Dolphin Guy says, remind the MAGAs what happens to impounded money from shutdown governments. I'd love to, Dolphin Guy. Let's see here. Elon triggered liberals, LOL. Cool. You know, I hope that you're fine. Let's see here. False. Walking. No executive agency is ran by an elected official. None. Yes, but they are voted on and confirmed by the Senate. Now it says all of the dollars taken away from USAID, etc., will go to tax cuts for oligarchs. That is accurate. Let's see here. Rena, what's going on? Hey, I lost my main account. Can you mod me on this one? Absolutely. I just got to make sure that you're the same, Rena, and make sure that I'm not being tricked. So I'll do it after this live, Rena. But good to see you again. What happened to your account, I wonder? Ember says, is it really democracy if a hyper-politicized federal judge from a lower court can block the executive? No, that is the point of democracy, is checks and balances. You know, everything goes through various agencies so that we don't live under the yoke of a dictator god emperor, which is what Trump is trying to become. So yeah, it is, you know, the president does not just get to do whatever the fuck he wants, even though that is the government that Trump is trying to create out of what America currently is. A whole bunch of ellipses says, what about AIPAC? AIPAC is an extremely far-right organization that is very well funded. They do not give a shit about anti-Semitism. They only give a shit about propping up right-wing authoritarians like Bibi Netanyahu and Donald Trump. Walking Drum says, you're 100% wrong and I'm a Democrat. What am I wrong about, Walking Drum? Is it that... I don't know why you're yelling. Let's see here. The Dolphin Guy says the host is biased. No, I'm not. Robert Whitford says you don't know shit. I know a lot of shit. The Bald Chick says, do you think married women will be stopped from voting with the SAVE Act? I mean, the SAVE Act, I think, you know, there's the kind of like Handmaid's Tale style laws that are like women are allowed to vote, but then there are the more subtle and insidious voter suppression laws. And I think that's what the SAVE Act is going to be. Like, it's going to make it difficult for women who have changed their name to vote because maybe everything doesn't match. Maybe it's a different name on the birth certificate than the driver's license, on the passport, shit like that. So it's going to make it more difficult, which is going to lower voter participation because not everybody has the time and the money available to them to make sure that all their documents are perfectly aligned. And they're not going to be able to have all those records on hand before they go in to vote because they're working 3 jobs and shit like that. Let's see here. K Statura 21 says DEI is dead. Cry somewhere else. You know who else is dead? A whole bunch of people from plane crashes. Somebody put this on the internet. They were like, I think DEI was the only thing that was keeping the planes on the ground. How many plane crashes are okay for you guys, now that Trump is in charge? Because planes are fucking falling out of the sky left and right. There have been 4 since he's been in office. Let's see here. Now it says, why is Trump's approval rating going up? What are the 53% watching and listening to? So this is a big deal, I think. And it has to do with the reason why people have various ideas about politics and the different political parties, etc. And I think that it has to do with the information environment. So most people in this country don't pay attention to politics. They don't really follow the news. They just kind of pick things up and they try to get it through osmosis, through social media and through their social circles and stuff like that. So a lot of people are just seeing that Trump is doing things. And that's what people like. They like to see Trump doing things. There's also a contrast between Biden, who was very old and wasn't out, doing a lot of things. Arguably, the Biden administration was one of the most successful administrations and progressive administrations since FDR, but he wasn't out there doing a lot of interviews and, talking to people because, again, he was extremely old and was going to turn to dust any minute now, So yeah, people like that he's doing things, and the places where they get their news are heavily influenced by people that have a lot of money and power who are in league with the Republican Party. The billionaire class wants people to think that Trump is doing a great job, and so the internet is awash with various accounts that are projecting this idea that Trump is doing a great job. And I also just want to tell everybody, because I saw something on the internet the other day that completely freaked me out, and it was a completely false video about how there are a small number of House Republicans who are standing up to the Trump administration. And I was like, I read the news regularly, and I have not seen this story at all. And so this person was doing like an act out of like, the Trump administration said this, and then these 23 Republicans were like, we don't work for you. And they were trying to give the impression that Republicans are standing up to Trump. And I was like, this is literally not happening as far as I can tell. So yeah, you got to watch out, guys. You got to take everything that you see on the internet with a grain of salt, because I think that if there was like a cadre of 23 Republicans that were being very brave and standing up to Trump, I think we would have heard about it. Let's see here. Karen Locke says, why do we want Greenland? Trump wants Greenland because he wants to be the kind of leader that expands America's territory. He has this like idiot's version of what a strong leader is, and it's like what Putin does, where you expand your borders by taking over other countries. What people like Putin and Musk and Trump want is a collapse of the global consensus that we shouldn't be like invading our neighbors. And part of how they're doing that is by leaving international organizations and trying to weaken international organizations. It's the reason why they left the World Health Organization, why they're threatening to leave NATO. They are threatening the UN. They got out of the Iran nuclear deal. They left the Paris Climate Accords. They canceled the naturalization that we had with Cuba. Like they want to go back to pre-World War II, when if you were a powerful country, you could just invade your neighbor and take it over, and that could become your country. Alrighty, let's see here. Stitch says, thank God we have a real leader back in the White House. These Democrats are wacky as hell. Are you cool with children dying of AIDS and cancer? Because that's what Trump is doing right now. Yoli says, how does Israel control our foreign policy other than lobbying and buying all the politicians? I mean, I think that you kind of hit the nail on the head. If there is some other leverage that AIPAC and Israel have over politicians, I don't know about it, but they're very successful at launching primary campaigns against politicians that act against them. And there are a lot of great progressive Democrats that got kicked out of their seats because they lost primaries to AIPAC-funded rivals who were going to be cooler to Israel. I think if there's any other, leverage that they have that I haven't mentioned already, it's probably just being called anti-Semitic, which, is it is a label that taints the left for some reason, even though there's way more anti-Semites on the right. So yeah, go figure. It's our media environment once again, guys. The misinformation, disinformation, and propaganda remains strong. Walking Drum says, you're so misinformed, you're actually hurting the party. Again, you haven't mentioned a single thing that I'm wrong about. You're just saying that I'm wrong. Wacky Shark, I just saw a TikTok that said executive order, married women can't vote thoughts. I am skeptical about that. That seems a little above the pale. I mean, obviously that's what they want, but I think what you're referring to is the SAVE Act, which is making it more difficult for women who have changed their name through marriage to be able to vote because you need to have all of your documents have the exact same name on it. Let's see here. Walking Drum says, every comment about government agencies was incorrect. Can you be more specific, man? Good Lord. Oh, my God. Somebody just wrote boring. It's like, you don't have to be here, man. Manuel Diaz says, what are your thoughts on monetary policy of the feds from 2008 until 2020? I got to pass on that one, man. Like, that's a really big question that I have more pockets of things that I don't know about it than I do of things that I know about it. Giovanni El Defino says, Trump is weakening the U.S. on the global stage, increasing our dependency on hard power. Completely agree with that. Vicarious 4, 6, and 2 says your top 5 best political leaders that should be elected to top positions. I mean, I like all of the young progressives. Like I like me a Maxwell Frost, I like me a Katie Porter, I like me an AOC, I like me a Jasmine Crockett. But there are a lot of great people in the Democratic Party who I would love to see rise to higher ranks, like Brian Schatz and Chris Murphy. There's a lot of great ones. But I don't really lionize politicians. They're humans who are, they are human beings who have flaws and make mistakes. Dan D says, why don't you take calls? Because I don't like doing debates, and I think that debates are stupid. Will Addison says, why are random agencies creating laws when the Constitution has the legislative branch? Random agencies do not create laws. What happens is that there are things that the agency decide that they figure out in the moment, like we got to figure out like how to deal with this problem or what this is. And so because they are experts in their field, they kind of make the judgment call about like what the specific law that the government passed means. Now, the Supreme Court just had a decision during the Biden administration that said that agencies actually aren't allowed to do that anymore, that those decisions have to go through the courts. And that is because this Supreme Court, which is extremely right-wing, is power-hungry judicial supremacists who think that they should have the final say in everything. Walking Drum, IRS, FEMA, Homeland Security, USAID, and 19 others are not voted appointees. I would have to double check that, Walking Drum, but I don't really care for the fact that you're yelling at me right now. Gerald Sipple 4 says dictators think debates are stupid too. No, they don't. They just have all of their rivals thrown in jail. Linda Morena 87 says, are there any Republicans you find deemable? I like AOC, but she is far left. Linda, there are people on the left who think that AOC is not far left enough. So I would be curious what you think the belief that AOC has, or the policy that she is putting forward that you think is too far, that you think is beyond the pale. And as far as like Republicans that I like, I think bare minimum you have to have been somebody that stood up to Trump. So Liz Cheney, Mitt Romney, Adam Kinzinger. But at the same time, like all of these people, every Republican, as far as I can tell, is still touting trickle-down economics, which is dumb, doesn't work, has created the worst income inequality in this country that we have seen, even worse than the Gilded Age, which was a time when that we named literally after how bad the income inequality was. Walking Drum, I'm done with you. All right, you're not being productive. You're just being not cool. Ashton Hansen says, do you have any issues with how much the U.S. citizens are taxed versus benefits? Yeah, absolutely. I think that there are places that we can, find inefficiencies in the government. I think, just off the top of my head, ICE and the Pentagon are huge money sinks that have never passed an audit. ICE specifically is a rogue agency and I think needs to be audited. And I think that there are too many loopholes for billionaires and giant corporations. Like, I think all of that stuff needs to be, turned into tax benefits for the middle class and below, and any deficits could be made up for by taxing the wealthy. Jeff Salmon says, can't handle the truth. Dolphin Guy, okay. The Dolphin Guy says, no shot there are people in this live who think trickle-down economics still work. If there's anybody in here who votes Republican, then you are voting for trickle-down economics, the Dolphin Guy. Will Addison says, where are you on the political spectrum? I'm new here. I'm a lefty. I'm a progressive. I'm whatever you want to call me. Chat, why didn't Middle Eastern countries use the Iraq War, the war on Iraq, to attack Israel? I have no idea. That is a really... that question is way above my head. Fred Palafox says, is our YS Constitution going to survive with Trump? That's an open question, because Trump is openly challenging other government agencies and the judicial system to stand up to him, to say you have to abide by the Constitution. So, will they do it? That is a really good question, and do the American people have the power to organize to stop them, to force them to stop and abide by the Constitution if they try to run over it? All of these are open questions. Vicarious says, which left-wing issue do you disagree with, and which right-wing issue do you agree with? As far as right-wing issues go, the only thing that I can get behind is getting rid of the penny. Left-wing issues, I like the Democratic platform. I haven't heard anything in the Democratic platform that I haven't been about. Let's see here. Cameron Smith says, where would you start to educate yourself on politics? I see a lot of bias and angry hive minds. I mean, every human being is biased. What you want is to avoid things that are trying to push a very specific agenda. If you look at progressive media like MSNBC or Crooked, their agenda is not to elevate the Democratic Party. Their agenda is to tell the truth about what the political parties are doing. They throw shade at the Republicans, and they throw shade at the Democrats. But the reason why people think that they are left-leaning news organizations is because they rightfully throw more shade at the Republican Party, because the Republican Party is way, 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 way worse than the Democratic Party. So yeah, if you want to get into things and you are worried about, your source being biased, then just get it from a variety of sources. Use centrist sources like the Associated Press, use foreign sources like the BBC, and use progressive sources like MSNBC and Crooked. But the one thing you want to avoid is right-wing media, because what they want is to elect Republicans. They don't give a shit about reporting the news. And we have study after study that shows that people that only watch or read right-wing news channels are the least informed, even less informed than people who don't read the news at all. USMC Vet says, what is your source that Republicans are worse than Democrats? I mean, my fucking eyeballs, man. Fucking look around. I'll tell you. Okay, so here's the thing. Let's just go through a fucking list real quick of the things that have happened so far in the Trump administration. And you can tell me whether or not you think Republicans or Democrats are worse, okay? So Democrats have tried to subpoena Elon Musk for all of the laws that he has broken in our government so far. The Republicans have blocked him. The Department of Justice disbanded, the Department of Justice led by the Republican nominee, whose name is Kim something, I forget her last name, Bondi, I think. They disbanded the FBI team that was tasked with fighting foreign election interference. So you know how we made a whole big thing about Russia trying to hack our elections? The FBI had a whole division to try to stop that, and the Republicans just disbanded that. They just halted work at the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau. When your bank fucks you over, like Wells Fargo did by creating accounts in your name and creating credit cards in your name and shit like that, or overcharging you overdraft fees and stuff like that. The Consumer Financial Protection Board is what protected people, the consumers, all of us, the 99%, from predatory loans and shitty bank policies and stuff like that. Republicans just said, I want you to stop doing your work. The Trump administration reversed a rule to lower prescription drug costs, and now medication is going to be more expensive. I literally just saw a story about this on Reddit about some Trump voter who went to the pharmacy, and her $35 for 3 insulin shots is now $75 for 1. Let's see here. They left the World Health Organization, left the Paris Climate Accord. You can argue about whether or not climate change is real or not, but we can all look at our fucking windows and see that it's 1,000 degrees warmer than it fucking used to be. I'm 45 years old. I remember when there was more snow than there is now. So yeah, leaving Paris, dumb thing to do. There's a gag order on the CDC and the National Institute of Health. Like, why? Why, especially when there's bird flu and potential pandemics coming down the pike, why would you put a gag order on the CDC and the NIH? Now, contrast that with the Biden administration, the largest investment in green energy in our nation's history, the most pro-union president since FDR, lowered prescription drug costs, lowered prescription premium costs, healthcare premium costs. The PACT Act, the CHIPS Act, the first bipartisan infrastructure bill in over a decade, like, it's night and day. The Republican Party is worse. It is a lot worse. They are lawless. They are trying to turn our country into a fucking dictatorship with no elections. We are witnessing a coup of the Republican Party and the billionaire class. Look at the fucking inauguration. You had Trump up there with a whole bunch of the richest people in the fucking world. Trump got elected because he was helped by Elon Musk and Vladimir Putin, two of the richest people to have ever fucking existed. So yeah, Republicans are worse. They are way fucking worse. Alrighty. Sorry about that, everybody, but my proof that Republicans are worse. Unfucking believable, man. Dadgummit says, wait, being in the Paris Accord will bring back snow? Damn. Yeah, I mean, eventually, but maybe not immediately. A says, Kamala was helped by a bunch of famous people and billionaires, ? Yes, but the Republican Party got a lot more money from a lot more billionaires. So Kamala Harris had some billionaires. Most billionaires were helping Republican politicians. T-Rock Norad said, I would expect more from a coked up president. I mean, he seems to be out there doing a lot of stuff. USMC Vet says, you are biased and only see what you want to see. No, that is not accurate at all. Ghosted says, say what you want, but I don't see any Republicans on here promoting bullshit like, then you are not watching the same internet that I am. WTF Fairly with Newless says the funniest thing is that not a single Republican challenged anything he said except to call him a name. Yeah, exactly. Ashton Hansen, do you feel like it's possible for the U.S. government to get too big? Is it already? It's definitely not too big right now, especially with Musk and Doge shutting down organizations that help struggling people everywhere around the world. Yeah, is it possible for the government to be too big? Absolutely. Like, I do not think that the government should be telling women what to do with their bodies. I do not think the government should be forcing, forcing private companies to get rid of their diversity, equity, and inclusion programs. All right, Golf Time says left wing is biggest hypocrite. I don't care if you have different opinions than me, guys, but be part of the conversation, ask a question, don't just say dumb stuff like that. Lovely Renee, how do you think unemployment under Trump's new term will look? I think it'll be bad. Yeah, I mean, we're looking at cuts to any social program. We're looking at cuts to Medicare, Medicaid, Social Security, unemployment insurance, welfare, like anything that helps the middle class and below or marginalized communities, is going to be on the chopping block. Let's see here. Lynn ES says they're trying to silence women. There's more of us. I agree. I hope that women do something about it. Let's see here. WTF says stop deflecting and actually say something to challenge everything he is saying. Positive News says, you like Doge or what? I do not like Doge. They are breaking the law and they are hurting people. There are going to be more children with AIDS because of Doge than if there had not been Doge. So I think that's bad. Do you guys think that's bad? I think it's bad. Let's see here. Doug, dude, they're not doing away with any of those programs. I mean, they literally are, Doug. Are you an actual person, Doug, or are you literally just on here to spread misinformation and disinformation? Because what you just said was like one of the most false things I've ever read in my life. All right, Doug, since you are not asking a question and just saying no, you are out of here. Goodbye. Okay, let's see here. Lynn ES is a constitutional crisis about to happen. Arguably, it's already happening, Lynn. Eduardo, what do you think is the proper justification for law? That's a pretty open-ended question there, Eduardo. What do I think is the proper justification for law? I mean, I think that in an ideal society, everybody is judged by the same qualifications. And if you do things that hurt people and are bad for society, then we make them illegal, like murder and theft and stuff like that. And if you're guilty of doing those things, then there should be some sort of, comeuppance, where you are either separated from society, like put into a prison so that you can no longer do that harm, or if you're put through some program so that you learn to not do the bad thing that you already did. Let's see here. Poker Buddy says, smartest follow yet. Thank you, Poker Buddy. I appreciate you being here. Especially because I was just getting flooded with a bunch of people calling me a cuck. Jester1223 says, if Trump puts more money in your pocket, How are we having a constitutional crisis? So me having a lot of money, Jester, does not make it a not constitutional crisis. Constitutional crisis means that, so the Constitution needs to be enforced by people within the government. So, for example, if Trump decides to cut down a tree that, like, this is a hypothetical situation, that the Constitution says he's not allowed to cut down, and so Trump starts cutting down the tree even though the Constitution says he's not allowed to, then there are people in the government who are supposed to stop Trump from doing that. But if those people don't do that, then we're in a constitutional crisis, because that means that the government is no longer abiding by its founding document. A real example, not my fake tree example, would be birthright citizenship, because that is clearly in the Constitution. It is very unambiguous, and there are hundreds of years, I think, of precedent to support it. I'm not a constitutional scholar, so don't quote me on that hundreds of years thing, but I'm pretty sure it's pretty old. At least say generations or decades. So yeah, if the Supreme Court then allows Donald Trump to get rid of birthright citizenship, then we are in a constitutional crisis, because the Supreme Court and the president are not upholding the Constitution. Alrighty, let's see here. GI says, do people hate Biden because they hate Obama? I think they hated Biden because they did not see the things that he was doing. I also think that people hate Biden because he was continuing to send money and weapons to Israel, even though they were guilty of doing war crimes against the people of Palestine. And I think that is a very reasonable and justified anger that people have. I'm angry at Biden for doing that. I think people are angry at Biden for deciding to run for a second term, which a lot of people say, and myself included, that is the reason why the Democrats did so. One of the reasons why the Democrats did so poorly in 2024 is because we didn't have enough time to mount a challenger to the Trump administration. You know, Harris did the best thing that she could with 107 days, but people usually spend more than a year getting their presidential runs in, you know, their ducks in a row. But yeah, I think that people were embarrassed by how old he was. Like, you know, they would see him in interviews talking like a fucking, you know, the Crypt Keeper's great-grandfather, and they were just like, this is embarrassing, man, that our president is like this. But as far as like his accomplishments go, like, you know, I would put the 4 years of the Biden administration up against a lot of other, you know, presidential lists of accomplishments. Let's see here. AirB223 says, don't care about the Constitution. They want to do away with the other branches for unchecked power. That is completely accurate. That's also why they're purging the government. They just want people that are not going to stand up to them and only going to do what they say. That is one of the things about the first Trump administration that mitigated a lot of the damage, and they're trying to get away with it. They're trying to get away with it so that there's no checks and balances anymore. BT says, you don't know shit. I actually know a lot of stuff. Cool Kitty Crew says, unchecked power. Yes, that is what they were trying to do. Pamela, day one, you Republicans were screaming at her for her policies, and you chose to demonize her. Who are you talking about, Pamela? Let's see here. Amy says they are following Project 2025. That is completely accurate. I think it is very telling that there were a lot of right-wing influencers who, as soon as Trump won the election, they were like, just kidding. Project 2025 is the plan. Everybody, ha ha ha, we tricked you. So yeah, fuck those guys. Ugh, excuse me. Cool Kitty Crew says, like the channel, new follower. Thank you, Cool Kitty. I appreciate that. Pamela says, MAGA was screaming at her. At Harris? Yeah, of course they were. Dead Ruskus says, are you a Zionist, if you mind me asking? So that term is extremely, there's a lot behind it. I can tell you exactly how I feel about the state of Israel and what the Netanyahu government is doing. I am for a two-state solution. I do not believe in eradicating Israel, because as much as Israel has been a negative actor in that area, there are people living there and they just want to fucking live their lives and go to work and go to their jobs. I do not believe that what Israel has been doing to their neighbor in Palestine is good or correct. But I also do not think that what Hamas did to the citizens of Israel was good or correct. So Hamas and the right-wing government of Israel are both guilty of war crimes. I do not think that we should be supporting either of them. Currently, America only supports Israel, so I think we should stop doing that. But yeah, anything that we can do to protect the health, life, prosperity, and happiness of the citizens who are living both in Palestine and Israel is what I am for. I am for peace. Dominic says, take on tariffs. There are smart ways to do tariffs and there are dumb ways to do tariffs, and Trump is doing them the dumb way. Richard Schaefer says, can you tell me what a woman is? A woman is somebody that covers their drink when you are around. Ben, what is your opinion on the Pritzker family NGO taking millions upon millions of taxpayer money? I don't know anything about that. That's all Greek to me. Jaden, do you think Project Paperclip has any part in the state? I don't know what that is. Dan, do you think European cars will get more expensive in the next 4 years? I think all cars are going to get more expensive in America in the next 4 years. Everything is going to. Let's see here. Somebody says that's funny. I can't take credit for that. Somebody else said that first. I am just repeating that joke. Let's see here. All right, things have slowed down. We got rid of a lot of the trolls, everybody. Very pleased about that. Let's scroll up. Let's see here. Brian the Titan says, what are your thoughts on the Monroe Doctrine and could we do it today? That unfortunately is one of my blind spots in history. Like, I would really need to dig into that and to have a more nuanced opinion about it, especially concerning, where we are in our political moment right now. Lee D60 says, are we really going to stand here and let Trump do a real estate deal with Gaza, really? Lee DZ60, let's talk about that. Because what do you mean by saying, are we really going to stand here and let Trump do a real estate deal with Gaza? Because who's going to stop that? Who is going to stop that? The Biden administration, for all of their faults regarding their Israel policy, they were at least putting a little bit of pressure on the Netanyahu government to stop doing war crimes against the people of Palestine. And I was out there shouting with my whole fucking ass, like, we got to elect Kamala Harris. And before Kamala, I was saying we got to re-elect Biden because even though Biden is bad on this issue, Trump will be worse. And I had a lot of people shouting at me in the comments saying, no, genocide is genocide. And, the lesser of two evils is still evil and shit like that. Well, what does Trump do when he gets into office? He resumes sending 2,000-pound bombs to Israel. He cancels sanctions that we had against illegal Israeli settlements in the West Bank. He's openly endorsing ethnic cleansing of Palestine now. And he's saying to Bibi Netanyahu, you have a blank check to move all of those people out of there, and then we, America, will take it over, and we'll turn it into beautiful beachfront property, and we could all make a fucking mint on it. That is worse than what was going on before, and it is way worse than what a Harris administration would have done. But what can we do now? Because the government isn't fully in control of the Republican Party, despite all of my best efforts to warn people that this shit was going to happen. The Republican Party is not going to stand up to Trump or Bibi Netanyahu or Musk because that is what they want. He is doing what they want. The Supreme Court is not going to stand up to them because, again, they are in league with the Republican Party. The private industry is not going to stand up to them because they're a bunch of billionaires and they want Trump to, do things that make them richer. And so they've already been giving him a fucking tongue bath and kissing his fucking ass 24/7. That's what all of these fucking settlements are for, where they're just like saying, oh, we're settling and we're donating to your library and shit like that. So the only people who can stop this, the only people who can stop this ethnic cleansing going on in Gaza right now is us, is the citizens. So how do we stop that? Well, number one, we put pressure on our elected officials to stop it. And that is, it helps if you do that, if you are being governed by Democrats, but it only really has juice if your representatives are Republicans, because they are the ones that have power in government right now. There's also special elections right now that if we win, I think we might flip the House, or at least we will have a much tighter difference between the majority and minority, and it will be a lot easier for the House to be a levy against the Trump administration's Gaza policy. But other than that, we have to get people to vote out Republican politicians and in Democratic politicians. Vote better politicians in, and we will have a better government and we'll have a better Gaza policy. I hope that was an okay answer to your question. Let's see here. Katarizina Smith says there aren't going to be elections anymore. So here's the thing. And this is one of the reasons why I am always ringing the alarm bell around misinformation and disinformation on social media, because it's not just Democrats are bad and Republicans are good. That is the propaganda that you're seeing out there. There's also stuff like what that person just wrote, which is that there aren't going to be elections anymore, that doomerism, it's our game over. Let's be cynical. Let's throw up our hands and completely give up because there's nothing we can do about this anymore. And I think that you should ignore and block all of the people who say that shit. You should ignore and block everybody who says both parties are the same. You should ignore and block everybody that says there's no consequences, have no elections, that voting doesn't do anything. You should block and mute everybody who says that the parties, I think I said the parties are the same already. You should block and mute everybody who says that if you don't vote, it is sending a message to the parties that they should change. So here's the short version is the game is not over yet. We need to be living our lives as though these elections are still going to be free and fair. And we need to win them by such massive margins that the message is clear. America does not want this. And so in addition to being voters, we also have to talk to our friends and neighbors and coworkers and everybody that we know in person so that it's not getting, flooded out by the, stream of bullshit that we see on social media. You have to be telling them what is important to you. How do we make the changes that we want to be making? And if Gaza is your thing, if healthcare is your thing, if, climate change is your thing, if police reform is your thing, if income inequality is your thing, you got to explain to them, you got to convince them that where we have common ground here, where we want to see the same kind of changes happening, Republicans ain't doing that shit. And Democrats are doing that shit. Maybe slowly, maybe flawed, maybe not perfect, but they are moving the ball in the right direction as opposed to fucking backwards. So, that's the game plan. That's the work. And we all have to do the work. And the more people that do the work, the less work we all have to do. So yeah, get out there and fucking convince people to go vote. Put pressure on their elected representatives, fucking, don't believe everything you see on social media, and flood the zone, man. We gotta vote. There are 85 million people in this country who did not vote in 2024, 30 million of which were registered already, so they didn't even have to do any extra work. We need to find those voters and get them to vote. And we gotta get them to vote for Democrats. Let's see here. Yay, Gurren Smash says, can't ask you anything because you're biased. You can ask me, Katarzyna Smith says, I'm not saying we shouldn't try, but we're going into battle dead already. Well, you realize that when you say that, you're discouraging people from doing things. EO Joe over on Twitch says, what does America want? America wants not this, EO Joe. America wants not this. Lead EZ60 says the young generation think they have no power. They just think they have to exist. We need to change that. Completely agree with that. Lead EZ. We need to be supporting young people running for office and recognizing that they have the power to change the things that they do not like about this country. That is one of the reasons why I support a great organization called Run for Something, which supports progressive candidates for local and state office, no federal office, and they have to be under 40 years old. Zachary Brace says, I want to help in the 2026. Where do I sign up to vote? Stupid question, I know, but oh well. So Zachary Brace, if you just want to vote, you need to Google how to register to vote because it's different in every state. And, some states have same-day voter registration, so you can just literally show up on the day. But some places, they require you to register a certain amount of time beforehand. If you need more help with that, you can actually reach out to me. My DMs are open. You can also email me through my website, jaredbranstein.com, and I can forward you any resources that you would need to register to vote. Let's see here. Creating My Reality says, yes, we do. This is exactly what we want. Trump has been saying the exact same thing for over 30 years. Creating My Reality, you do not represent the majority. And I am curious if you recognize that there are a lot of people who do not feel the way that you do in this country. There are only 23% of this country voted for the Trump administration. And so there's a lot of people out there who do not believe in what Trump is doing. There are a lot of people who voted for Trump who do not like what he is doing. And there are a lot of people who just did not vote who do not like what Trump is doing. Medley3 says, heard the electoral map is on course to favor the Republicans in 2030. Thoughts? The electoral map is always going to help Republicans because of gerrymandering, the Senate map, and the Electoral College. These are part of the reforms that I think that we need to be making in order to make our electoral system more fair so that the will of the people is more represented and not just the will of the billionaires. Let's see here. Abracadabra 429 says the song We Are the World must have been something wrong now. What? What the hell does that mean? Let's see here. Carmine, people voted on promises that are not being delivered but claim this is what they wanted. Yeah, completely agree with that. Where are my fucking $1 egg prices again? Dead Ruski says, careful, Jarrett, they don't like political correctness. Who doesn't like it? Ben, what's your opinion on Doge's investigation? So Doge, The investigations, they say that they are trying to eliminate government waste, but that's not what they're doing. They're shutting down programs that help people in the middle class or below, and that hurt the most powerful people in the world. So the Consumer Financial Protection Board, for example, is a government agency that Doge is trying to shut down because they fight for the little guy. They make it so that big banks and giant companies can't fuck people over. The funding that that agency gets has returned like something like tenfold back to the American people in returned fake, junk fees and shit like that. So that is all Doge is doing. They're shutting down programs that hurt the rich and powerful and help the people in the middle class and below. Leif Erikson says, wrong, wow, misinformation. To that, I say, wow, blocked, later. Okay. James, do you think Doge will cut any of the defense budget? I know that they said they're going to, but I'm extremely skeptical. The Republican Party love their fucking military industrial complex and their fucking Raytheon contracts and shit like that. Like, they are all part of the same, soup of donors and billionaire political actors and shit like that. So yeah, I'll believe it when I see it. When they say they're going to cut the Department of Defense, what they mean is they're going to fire like every black person and woman that is in a position of authority. And they're going to say, look at what a good job we're doing. Oliver Dixar Firm says, when will we be ready to link arms? I mean, as soon as we get rid of the Nazis, I'm not linking arms with those fuckers. Creating My Reality says, Doge has no authority to cut anything. That is completely accurate. Creating My Reality. Zach Hume says, oh no, they don't cut defense. Elon Musk gets a lot of his funding from defense. Completely agree with that. Yeah, you think he's going to take, a knife to any of that money he is getting for Tesla or SpaceX? Absolutely not, man. Also, Doge has spent something like $5 million already of your tax dollars. How do you guys feel about that? Dan says, what work can we do? I'm in Pennsylvania, a swing state. Dan, have you not heard my speech about what the work is? Dan, because you're a regular, man. I really thought you would be tired of hearing this speech already. But yeah, I'll give it. So here's the work. And especially if you live in a swing state, this is the work that needs to be done. Number one, if you live in a swing state, call up your representatives and tell them that you want your state to get in the National Popular Vote Interstate Compact. I'm going to say that like 10 times so that everybody remembers what it is. The National Popular Vote Interstate Compact. Call up your reps and say, I want our state to be in the National Popular Vote Interstate Compact. What that does, if we get enough states to sign up for that, that completely eliminates the Electoral College because it gets the states to agree to give their electoral votes to the winner of the popular vote. So that's number one. Number two is if you live in a swing state, you probably are represented by some Republicans. You got to get on the phone and tell them that you do not like what Elon Musk and Doge and Trump are doing. You do not like the nominees that are being confirmed right now, and you want them to do something about that. You want the Republican Party, you want the Trump administration to abide by what the judges are telling them they have to do. And you want them to not start a constitutional crisis by not enforcing the law against the Trump administration because they're scared about being primaried by the richest people on the planet. Also, you need to talk to your friends and neighbors, and you got to talk to your coworkers. You got to talk to everybody that you know and make sure, sorry, we're having some connection issues on TikTok. Let's see here. All right, we are back. Okay, so yeah, as I was saying, if you got to talk to the people that you know, you got to talk to your friends, your neighbors, your coworkers, people that know and love you already. Like, those are the people who it is easy to sway people if they know you already. Like, I knock on doors and I talk to voters, but they don't know who the fuck I am. So my work has a limited efficacy, and it is way more efficient for you to talk to people that you already know. You got to make sure that they're getting their news from accurate sources and not just looking on social media and reading right-wing propaganda channels. You want to make sure that they know that the Democratic Party is most likely aligned with what they want this country to be. And depending on how far down the right-wing rabbit hole they may or may not be, you might have to do a lot of work to sort of like backpedal from the crazy shit that they believe. But that's part of the work. That is part of the work. And when you get somebody that is like on your team and you're like, hey man, we both understand, like, we got to get rid of these Republicans. We got to elect Democrats. We got to vote in primaries. We got to vote in midterms. We got to do all this work. As soon as that person is on board, you got one more person who's doing the work with you. And that means that there is less work for you to do and less work for me to do. And that is the goal, guys. That is what organizing is. It is all of us getting together and doing the work so that nobody has to do a lot of work. And there's already great organizations that are doing this. Indivisible, Run for Something, Vote Save America. Like, you don't have to reinvent the wheel. I'm just saying, talk to the people that you know already. And then if you want to do more than that, go volunteer with Indivisible. Go volunteer with Run for Something. Donate some money to Vote Save America. Do the work. That's the work, guys. Alrighty. Dan, the popular vote thing sounds interesting. Really not sure why it does not exist. It already does exist. And there are something like 200 plus electoral votes that have already signed up for the National Popular Vote Interstate Compact. What's that name again? The National Popular Vote Interstate Compact. So yeah, once we get to 270, the Electoral College is basically done. Katarzyna Smith says, how is it legal to pay Doge with tax dollars? It's not a real department. I don't know. I don't know what justification they are using, but I literally just saw that story today. So 100%. They have spent $5 million already. Mr. 963 says, when the court orders against Doge are ignored and the Department of Justice fails, what is next? At that point, we take to the streets, I think. At that point, we need to, we need to be primarying the Republicans who let this happen. We need to, be registering Democratic voters en masse so that people recognize what's going on. We need to be striking and protesting and making sure that our voices are heard. Let's see here. Grandman 1917 says, I'm joining the Revolutionary Party. I'm tired of voting. Well, if you don't vote, then nothing's ever going to change, my man. Let's see here. Jordan Brown, do you not like Trump or the right as a whole? Yeah, I don't like the right as a whole, and also I don't like Trump. Let's see here. Jordan Brown, what's wrong with the right? Look at Biden 4 years and Trump's 4 years, and economy is better. So that's a little bit of a short-sighted view of what actually happened, Jordan Brown. So the Obama administration had a very strong economy that Trump inherited, and he actually destroyed the Obama economy by the time he left office. You can't judge a president based on their first couple of years because their policies have not had any chance to go into effect yet. You basically judge a presidency, with a couple of exceptions, you judge a presidency on the last couple of years and a little bit into the next presidency, depending. Because again, there's some exceptions to this. This is all generalizations that I'm talking about. So at the end of the first Trump administration, the economy was in shambles. All of our supply chains were completely fucked. It's the reason why inflation went to 9% made during the Trump administration. There was also more global chaos during the Biden administration because of mistakes that were made during the Trump administration. He inflamed tensions in the Middle East, and that is the reason why there's currently a war being fought between Israel and Hamas. I can go on and on about this, but it really is decisions that were made during the Trump administration that fucked over the Biden administration so hard. So yeah, I hope that answers your question, my man. Katarzyna Smith says, where does Republicans are better at the economy come from? Never been true in my entire lifetime. It's propaganda. Katarzyna Smith. It is the exact same bullshit that says that Republicans are better on national security and defense. When they let 9/11 happen, they were fully in charge of the government when 9/11 happened. The greatest national security failure in our nation's history, their fault, and they still have this primatur of being the party of national security. The economy always does better under Democratic administrations. But yeah, this is all propaganda, that very successful propaganda that has been perpetrated by the right against the left. Let's see here. Medley 3, I'm an independent looking at both sides. Enjoy your open mind perspective from the left side. I appreciate you being here, Medley 3. And I can't wait to spit more of my liberal bullshit at you and hope to get you off the center and onto the left. Let's see here. Over on Twitch, we got a bunch of stuff. Jibe Jess says, Trump shouts foolish suggestions, making incompetence drop above all expectations. Yeah, he says he talks trash. That is what he does. Let's see here. Yojo says, but they won the popular vote. Yes, sorry, Yojo. I know that you left that comment a long time ago, but I've been on a roll over here on TikTok. Yeah, he did win the popular vote, but it is key to recognize that only 23% of this country voted for Donald Trump. More people did not vote than voted for Donald Trump. So, ergo, this was really an election about voter apathy.
as opposed to an election about how much everybody loved Trump and what he's currently doing versus what he said he was going to do. Because again, there is a big difference between what he's doing and what he said he was going to do. He said he was going to end the war in Ukraine on day one. He said he was going to end the war in Palestine on day one. He said he was going to bring down grocery prices on day one. None of that shit has happened. Planes are falling out of the sky though, so that's great. There are going to be more children with AIDS now. That's great. Let's see here. Lead Easy 60 says, Matt Wilson says, hello, my fellow goy. I'm not technically a goy. I don't believe so. Let's see here. Lead Easy says, isn't the deal Trump's trying to do with Egypt and Jordan a quid pro quo? I would need to look into that a little bit more specifically. What I have seen, it seems a little bit more like a threat than a quid pro quo, where it's like, we are going to not be sending you any assistance dollars if you do not agree to remove all of Palestine and put them in your countries. But again, I could be wrong about that. I need to read a little bit more about it. Troyski says, didn't I see you at drag? I was there with your mom, so maybe. Let's see here. A little bit election. A little bit of, let's see here. A little bit of connection issues. All right, we are at an hour, so I am going to do my outro, but I always do questions after the outro, so please stick around. I want to thank everybody for being here. I want to thank everybody for the comments, for the questions. You know, we got a lot of really great, good faith questions on here from people who don't 100% agree with me, and that is my favorite way to do these live streams. I am here for that. I'm here for people that don't know anything about politics and they want to learn about politics, and I'm excited to be a part of the process of presenting my case for why people should care about politics and why people should vote for Democrats over Republicans. Sorry, having some connection issues on TikTok again. Having some connection issues on TikTok again. Having some connection issues on TikTok again. Yes. So I'm here for convincing people to vote and for convincing people to get involved in politics and convincing people that the left is better than the right. I appreciate any support that you guys can give me, whether it is the free kind, like liking and sharing and commenting and talking to all your friends and telling them how great of a live streamer I am and how everybody should follow me and liking my videos. But if you can afford to do the financial kind of support, that stuff really is helpful as well. I have a Patreon that you can find on my website, jarrettberenstein.com. I have a store that you can find at jarrettberenstein.com/store. You can also send gifts on TikTok and Twitch and maybe the other platforms that I'm streaming on. But again, we are suffering through a cost of living crisis that the Trump administration is not solving. So yeah, I am not going to throw any shade at anybody who cannot afford to send me financial incentives to keep on doing these live streams. I just love doing these live streams. So yeah, my regular live streaming schedule is Tuesday through Friday, starting at 11:30 a.m. Pacific Standard Time. I often start early because I really like doing these, and I often augment that with a Monday because, again, I really like doing these. My schedule, I'm usually very good at updating my schedule on my website, jarrettberenstein.com, but all of my tour dates are there right now, so if you ever want to come see me do stand-up, all of my dates are up on the internet right now at my website, jarrettberenstein.com. If you have a question that I was not able to get to, my DMs are open. The best way to get in touch with me is emailing me through my website because I don't have TikTok on my phone because I switched phones when, the ban went into effect and now I can't download it again. So, but I do read my DMs and I do respond to my DMs if you have anything that I was not able to get to on this live stream or anything else that ever comes up, Let's see here. And lastly, my sincere, heartfelt plea for you guys to all do the work. And the work is not being cynical. The work is not being despondent. The work is not giving up. Because when you give up, that is what authoritarians and despots and fucking these billionaires who are running a fucking coup on our country right now, that is what they want. They want you to think that resistance is futile. But it is not futile. It is the work. That is what we got to be doing, guys. We got to be getting people on board with what is actually going on in this country and in our government. We got to make sure that people are not just drinking in the right-wing Republican fucking Kool-Aid propaganda, and we got to make sure that people's false notions that they're getting off of social media are being corrected with the actual truth. If you hear somebody talking about how Republicans are better than Democrats, that is a narrative that needs to be corrected. If you hear somebody saying that voting doesn't do anything, or that it's all hopeless now, or that both parties are the same, or etc., then that is a notion that needs to be corrected as well. This is work that needs to happen in person. It can happen not in person, but it's way better if it happens in person with your friends, your neighbors, your coworkers, your family members, the people that know you. That is where the convincing is going to have the most juice. So you got to make sure that people are getting the right news, and you got to make sure that people know what the plan is. The plan is that we got to vote. And we all got to vote like fucking crazy. We got to vote like our lives depend on it. We got to vote in midterms and primaries and special elections, in addition to the general election. And we got to support Democratic candidates because they're the ones who are going to be doing the change that we need to see in this country. Having some connection issues on TikTok again. Having some connection issues on TikTok and on Instagram as well. All right, I'll probably just end the Instagram portion then because, yeah, it does not seem to be assisting me at all. So yeah, do the work, guys. And if we all do the work, then nobody has to do all the work. Okay. Katarzyna Smith says, not going to lie, I'm doing the work, but it does seem hopeless. It's tough. It's tough, man, because when there's a job this big, our portion doesn't feel like it's doing anything, but it does do something. I canvassed in 2 swing states, and the Democrats did better in the swing states than they did everywhere else. So there's just your evidence that the work matters. And sometimes your work is knocking on a door and figuring out that is a Republican who is not buying what you're selling. And then you can knock it off on your list. Sometimes the work is filing. Sometimes the work is just talking to your friends and making sure that everybody's on board, you know? Let's see here. Lovely Renee. I will never give up. That's what the people did with Schittler, and why he got in, I won't allow it. I'm not allowing it either, Lovely Renee. I will see you there. Katarzyna Smith says, in Georgia. Oh my God, then you have the best work to do. Oh my God, I wish I lived in Georgia. Good Lord, that is that shit, man. Name says, can you explain America's position in the World Economic Forum? I can't, unfortunately. Sorry, that question is a little bit above my head. Let's see here. Name says, both parties are the same. No, they are not. Name, I know what you're doing here. You're trying to discredit me. Let's see here. Okay. Troy's Key says, you can't even define what a woman is. LOL. Dude, nothing you have said is true. Lies from the left. Cool. Well, you're out of here. Thank you for identifying yourself as somebody who is completely full of it. Okay. All right. Final questions. We got a couple over on, we got a couple over on YouTube. Would you have voted for Frank Underwood? Probably not. Jenny Federer says, I'm having trouble finding a source for your statement on how much of the vote Trump received. I may be Googling the wrong thing. I can't honestly tell you where I got that number from. I've heard it repeated from a bunch of different news sources, so I am pretty confident in it. But if you email me through my website, I'll see if I can find you a link for that. Let's see here. Zach, do you think we should ban think tanks? I don't know about that. Like, I really think that the idea behind a think tank, I think, has value. You know, like, you have an organization that is just getting together and using money to try to solve problems. Now, unfortunately, there's also bad think tanks like the Heritage Foundation, but yeah, I don't know if banning think tanks is the move. Like, that's how we get good policy. That's how we get things like the Consumer Financial Protection Board. That's how we get things like, the EPA. Yeah. Lead EZ says, MVP, that's what they want us to do, is get tired and stop finding them so they can do what they want. Completely agree with that. Triton Bridges says, can you comment on the SAVES Act? Yes, so the SAVES Act, and I know a little bit about this. I don't know a ton about it. The SAVES Act is I believe, a bill that the Republicans are putting forth that would make voter ID national, and it would make it very difficult for women to vote because you would need to have consistency in your name on all of your documents. And for women that have changed their name because of getting married, that will make things a lot more difficult for them. It is basically a voter suppression bill, which is, part of the way that Republicans cheat their way into electoral victories. Let's see here. What do I think about the Anna Paulina information being released today? I don't know who that is. Let's see here. Yes, Katarzyna Smith says, SAVES Act is just a way to disenfranchise women's votes. Completely agree with that. Miles says, incorrect. What did I get wrong, Miles? Let's see here. Danny Cam says, what are your thoughts on Lindy Lee's interview on Sean Ryan's show? I've heard Lindy Lee's name bandied about. Usually it's from right-wing people who are trying to make a point, so I don't know who that is. I don't know what her whole fucking deal is. MVP says, I think we're all sick of politics about this point. That's what the Republicans want, you know? Let's see here. All right, since Miles has not told me what I'm incorrect about, and we're down to under 100 viewers on TikTok, Dom says, do you have a favorite political thinker? Do I have a favorite political thinker? Yes. No, not one. I have a bunch. You know, I like Ben Rhodes and Tommy Vitor. They have a podcast where they talk about world politics called Pod Save the World. I also really like Chris Hayes. I think that they are both very smart political commentators. And they're also not like, you know, so lofty and, you know, erudite that a regular person can't listen to them and understand what's going on. Like in Ezra Klein, for example. All right, guys. I am going to get out of here. I will see you guys tomorrow at 11:30 a.m. Pacific Standard Time, maybe a little bit earlier. I hope everybody has a great Tuesday, and do the work with me. I will see you guys later. Take care. Bye-bye. Goodbye. 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 Goodbye.